Picture this, it's 1969 and Dodge engineers are staring at their struggling NASCAR performance charts, sipping coffee and thinking, what if we ignored normal and went straight to unhinged? Enter the Dodge Charger Daytona, a car that took the term street legal race car and said, let's make it fly. Not literally, but close enough. This video is inspired by 3 articles about the Dodge Charger Daytona, one from On All Cylinders, another from Motor Trend, and a third from supercars.net. You can find links to these articles in the Google Doc linked in the description. I highly recommend checking them out for more in-depth information. Let's back up a bit. NASCAR, once upon a time, was truly stock car racing. Manufacturers raced cars that were essentially modified versions of what you could buy at the dealership. When Dodge realized their Charger 500 wasn't cutting it on the track, they went back to the drawing board, actually the wind tunnel. The result was the Daytona, a car so aerodynamic it could have been drafted by aerospace engineers. To give you an idea of how insane the Charger Daytona was when it dropped. In the 60s, all these big sports car brands were coming out with new models. Ferrari had the 250 GTO and the 275 GTB with a 3.3-liter V12. Lamborghini had the 350 GT with a 3.5-liter V12 and the Acelero 400 GTS, and Aston Martin unveiled the DBS with a 4-liter V12. But none of them could match the Daytona's 0 to 60 time, which was under 5.5 seconds. Yes, I know, a great car isn't just about 0 to 60 times, but still, it shows you just how powerful this beast really was. First, let's talk about the wing. This wasn't some decorative flair to impress bystanders at stoplights. It was a functional, physics-defying monster designed to provide stability at high speeds. Rumor has it that its height was chosen so the trunk could open. But the real story? It needed to reach clean air above the car's roofline. Dodge wasn't designing this car for trips to the grocery store. The Daytona also sported a sheet metal nose cone, which replaced the Charger's grille. This aerodynamic masterpiece reduced drag, allowing the car to cut through the air like a knife through butter. Oh, and those reverse scoops above the front fenders? Functional too, they helped reduce lift at high speeds. Every inch of the Daytona screamed performance, even if some of those inches were a little excessive. But Dodge couldn't just make this car for the track. NASCAR's homologation rules required at least 500 to be sold to the public. So Dodge built 503 Daytonas, slapped price tags of around $4,600 on them, and rolled them into dealerships. For context, a basic Charger went for roughly $3,000. Imagine trying to convince your neighbor to pay an extra $1,600 for a car with a nose longer than your average driveway. On the track, though, the Daytona was unstoppable. In March of 1970, Buddy Baker became the first driver in NASCAR history to hit 200 miles per hour during a closed-course test. This was no fluke. The Daytona went on to win the inaugural Talladega 500 in 1969 and followed it up with a victory at the Texas 500. By the time 1970 rolled around, the Daytona and its winged cousin, the Plymouth Superbird, were dominating super speedways. Let's set the record straight. While the Superbird and the Daytona share a lot of similarities, calling them twins would be like saying fraternal twins are identical. They're cut from the same cloth, sure, but the details make all the difference. Let's start with the nose. The Daytona's nose cone is sharper and more pointed, almost like it's ready to slice through the air with surgical precision. The Superbird, on the other hand, takes a softer approach, sporting a more rounded nose cone that gives it a slightly different aerodynamic personality. Then there's the matter of those iconic wings. The Daytona's wing stands tall and proud at a steeper angle, looking like it's ready to channel every bit of airflow into pure speed. The Superbird's wing, while equally impressive, has a more laid-back vibe, angled back slightly, almost as if it's leaning in for a casual cruise rather than an all-out sprint. And here's a quirky detail about the Superbird that adds a touch of charm to its story. Plymouth decided to slap vinyl roofs on these bad boys. Why, you ask? Well, rumor has it they were in such a rush to get the cars ready for dealerships that they didn't have time to properly smooth out the welds and modifications on the roofline. The vinyl was a quick and dirty solution to cover up those imperfections. Not exactly subtle, but hey, it worked, and it added a unique visual flair to the car in the process. So while both the Daytona and the Superbird are legends in their own right, their differences in design, style, and execution make them more like competitive siblings than identical twins. The Superbird wasn't just a response to Dodge's Daytona, it was a bid to bring Richard Petty back to Plymouth. And it worked. Petty, along with drivers like Pete Hamilton, helped the Superbird rack up 8 wins during the 1970 season. Unfortunately, these cars weren't exactly flying off dealership lots. Their size and unique design didn't help. The Daytona had a 117-inch wheelbase, a front nose long enough to rival a limousine, and a rear wing that screamed, "I dare you to park me in a tight spot." And then there was the price. The average buyer in 1969 wasn't looking to spend extra cash on a car that belonged on the racetrack. Legend has it some dealerships resorted to drastic measures. Wings were removed, nose cones were swapped for regular Charger fronts, and these aerodynamic masterpieces were downgraded to blend in with the crowd. Imagine taking a masterpiece like the Mona Lisa and painting a mustache on it just to make it sell. The Daytona's glory days on the track were short-lived. By the end of 1970, NASCAR decided these aero cars had gone too far. Instead of banning the wild designs outright, they limited engine sizes for cars using aerodynamic enhancements. Without their big block engines, the aero kits lost their edge, and just like that, the Winged Warriors were retired from competition. In just 2 years, the Charger Daytona and Superbird left an unforgettable mark on NASCAR and automotive history. These cars weren't built to fit in, they were built to stand out, to challenge the status quo, and to push the limits of what a race car or a street car could be. Today, Daytonas are icons, rare, valuable, and highly coveted by collectors. They're the stuff of muscle car legends. Spot one at a car show and you'll notice the crowd it draws. Not bad for a car that was once considered too weird to sell. The 1969 Dodge Charger Daytona wasn't just ahead of its time. It was from another planet. From its groundbreaking aerodynamics to its unforgettable track record, it's a car that dared to be different and succeeded in leaving a legacy that still turns heads over 50 years later. Now, I've got a question for you. Have you ever driven a Dodge Charger Daytona or seen one in action at a race? Let us know in the comments. If you enjoyed this, don't forget to subscribe and click on the recommended video that appears on the screen. It's all about the AMC Pacer. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.